listening to the 14th source for all geek and nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
It's been a week. We took a week off. We need to take a breather after the incredible conversation we had with Kyron Silva discussing Agatha All Along.
Right.
Just a mere 2 or 3 months after the show ended.
Yeah, we're always cutting edge.
As always.
Always on the cusp, the hilt, the whatever.
Speaking of the cusp, speaking of the edge, we are done with February, Andrew.
Yes.
A blink and you missed it kind of thing. And we're on the cusp of March. Spring is around the corner. Leaves will turn. Temperatures rise. I'm all for it, to be honest.
Well, yeah. I'm less enthused, but that's fine.
As we do. Hey, making it to the next day, making it to tomorrow is what matters here. And speaking of what matters, this week we are going to bring you the things that have been piquing our interest and curiosity over the last week or so, with our respective weeks in geek. And Andrew, if you don't mind sharing, what was your week in geek like this week?
So, God, there are things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I will say, so for those who don't know, recently it's been the 25th anniversary of The Sims, the video game by Maxis, EA Games. And I will say that I actually did, I realized I'd bought The Sims 4 at some point. So I was like, oh,
everybody does, Andrew.
I re-downloaded it. I was like, oh, let me give this a whirl. I got a little too in. I have some stories to tell. But I'm still processing, still playing the game, still engaging with it. I wanna sit on this.
Is this the first time you've played The Sims 4?
No, apparently I played it briefly some time ago for like 6 hours, because it said you've played 6 hours. I'm like, oh, I did.
Back when Sims 4 debuted in 2003.
No, Sims 4 was 2015, I think.
Yeah, something like that. We have some Sims stories. Andrew and I remember we were butt babes, and we're like, what would it be like to live as roommates with? I forgot who else we put in that house with us, but. It was chaos.
I was actually explaining to a coworker like my history with The Sims since its release 25 years ago.
Basically, it was Sims 1. We were talking, maybe Sims 1, maybe 2.
But there's so much. It's what a weird experience. So I want to talk about that, but I'm still. Boy, oh boy, am I still like baking a narrative from my experience playing this game.
Are you going to write some Sims like fiction? Like, is this going to be the Dragonlance of Sims?
Sims fan fiction. Mashuga. Anyway, no. So I don't want to talk about that just yet. Instead, I want to talk about. I do want to talk about something else. Something else that happened recently, which was the release of the final episodes of Cobra Kai, the Netflix series.
Capital F final? Like end of the season or end of the series?
Yeah, end of the show.
Oh, shit.
Wrap it up.
Well, I guess it makes sense to prepare for the release of Karate Kid Legends. Legend? That movie that's coming out.
Right.
Jackie Chan and
Ralph Macchio.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
No, so so season 6, the final season, had been broken up across 3 parts. So I think I talked about parts 1 and or 2, but now they wrapped the show up. Like the show is done, it ended, all the bullshit drama is over, and yeah. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing that the show that started as like a YouTube Red show.
Yeah. Oh
right?
shit, you're right.
Years ago. It now it's reached its conclusion. And
that's crazy. Yeah. Wow. What a story. Just in that. Yeah.
And I'll say I think it's 6 episodes is the final part. Maybe it's 5. And it really is it wraps up everything they've done over the course of 6 seasons.
Okay. Nicely?
Yeah, actually, I'll say that the show ends on a kind of like an upbeat, right? We see the actually, what I will say, they managed to, with all the horse shit the show's done, they actually have the narrative go to not only a way that kind of feels like, oh, okay, this is not bad, but also it brings it back to the original premise. Or the original, like, what I'll say is that, like, they're in this big bullshit karate tournament, this international tournament, but it ends with, despite everything else that has happened, Cobra Kai, the karate guild, or whatever, club, is the
Dojo.
The dojo, right? They're the ones who, they're at this tournament. Even though, like, the name has been, like, it's gone through a lot of different directions, bad guys have been involved. It ends with basically, like, the characters, the kids that, you know, we've kind of come to appreciate, like, showing up as, no, we're now here, despite the fact that most of them were now not part of Cobra Kai. Like, they're part of a different dojo. They come back for reasons that are very silly. Like, in, you know, with the costume and the whatever, to do the big tournament. And there's at least one kind of shocking face turn, where one of the villains basically, like, finally has his come to Jesus moment, I guess. And he actually, you know, basically goes out, has a bit of a redemption arc. So I would say that it was like, it worked. It ended. It wasn't like, oh, this show. It was like, oh, that was a way to wrap it up.
It didn't feel like it was limping to the finish line.
Right. I think
that's good.
I think it did its end well.
Because as I can't. Which season did, if you can remember, which season did Terry Silver show up in?
I think 5.
Fuck, really? I didn't
4.
think I made it that long. Yeah. I bopped at a certain point because I'm like, this feels like it's kind of getting buried in a bit of its own bullshit.
Oh, sure.
To be honest, and like, but I will say, like, I know the writers are smart enough and deft enough to, when they need to bring it, they can bring it, and to hear that they wrapped it up is actually not surprising. To the point where I'm like, I don't know if I want to catch up. Maybe I just want to jump to the end. And like what's season 5, 6?
6.
6. Okay, maybe just jump to that season. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be details I missed, but I have faith in the writing of that show to be kind of like, they'll get me through what I need. Not saying that people should do that. Obviously, watch the entire show if you want to watch the entire show. But like, it's an interesting. The whole writing experience of the show is fascinating in its own right. To create a continuity, honestly, out of a series that was just a goof,
right?
Honestly, and it's really inspiring, just creatively, to hear that they're able to bring it to a conclusion that is satisfying.
Yeah, no, I think I'm actually trying to. I think he may have been actually season 5, where they brought him in. But I was saying, like, it's that thing where the show had, like, they kept cycling, like, the villainous kind of narrative, right? They brought in John Kreese in season 2 at the end of season 1, and then they, eventually they have Terry Silver who shows up, and they kind of go back and forth about, like, what is, who are the villains, who are the good guys,
right?
But I would say that, like, I think by the end of it, it felt like, oh, it ended well. Yeah, no, I was happy with it. It wasn't, too, like, I will say, I don't think, when I saw it, I was like, wow, that guy didn't need a redemption arc. And this is a spoiler, so cover your ears.
Spoiler alert, like, turn away if you don't want to listen.
It is, in fact, the character of John Kreese, who
really?
has a bit of a redemption arc.
I was gonna guess, what was that fucking kid? The Hawk?
Oh no,
Mohawk?
like he'd already kind of had his own.
Okay.
Like it was of the olds. It was John Kreese who, like, when things go really sour in season 6, he finally says, like, oh shit, maybe I fucked up. And
Wow.
it's weird to have a scene
That's
where
cool.
he has like a cry with Johnny.
Yeah.
And he actually then, like, has straight up there. Not a lot of people get killed in this show. There's one in mid-season 6. It ends the part 2 where, like, someone gets killed by accident. But then John Kreese does a kill.
The temporary paraplegia.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, but no one died, right?
No one died, but severely injured.
But season 6 has, a poor Korean kid gets killed, and then John Kreese, he does a murder, but it's
just a little bit.
But it's one where you're like, all right, that's your redemption arc, brother.
All right.
Which,
so
again,
he kills Hitler.
I mean, ish. So, but I would say that, like, I think it worked out. I think they really.
I mean, the show is silly.
I mean, it's
on its premise.
It's
like,
very silly, right? Like, it's a sports
show. Season 1 leans into the silliness quite a bit. Like,
yeah.
So, like, to it's not a criticism to call the end of the show or the redemption arcs of the show silly, because, like, yeah, like the crime would be to all of a sudden getting serious and like being like, oh, no, this is grounded and realistic. Like, no, this is Cobra Kai. This is weird and dumb and nostalgic and everything all at once.
It's a weird sports show where the sport is karate. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah. So I would say I'm glad it ended in a way that felt like it's done, right? While they certainly have the new Karate Kid movie coming out, it doesn't feel like I had, like, it's not like it's a continuation of the story, but it's not in a way that makes me feel like I have to watch it, right? I will, but, like, it's not like, oh, it's not like you ended your show with a cliffhanger. Like, no,
right.
They wrapped that show up.
They had that luxury of doing that, I guess, which is nice. I guess the question I have is, like, and not to get too English nerdy here, but, like, the show is Johnny's show ultimately, and as set up by the premise of the premiere episode in the first season,
right?
How do you feel about how they brought his arc to a close? You don't have to necessarily give details, because, but even by the end of the season 1, he's made a turn that is wonderfully rich and full of depth, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely view the show as one about Johnny's journey. So,
right.
Like, where do they take it? I mean, reveal as much as you want, but, like,
oh yeah,
where do they leave Johnny at the end? I guess is what I'm most interested in.
Well, and that's what I would say, that, like, first of all, as a character, he basically, by the end of the show, he has 2 sons, with a daughter who's born in the last season.
Damn.
Because he has his actual son, right, from I forget whatever his name is, and then he basically has Miguel, because he it's like his adoptive son of sorts,
Spiritual son.
So and he ends up marrying his mother, so Miguel's mother, not his own mother.
Right. He marries his own mother. This is a crazy
so
show.
So I think in that regard, like, he. And in doing that, like, he has his own, like, because he's kind of a shithead in the first season.
A little bit. He's all about beers and babes, right?
But by the end, like, he's not, like, a great person, right?
No, he's still probably mostly about beers and babes.
But it's someone who's, like, found a place and moved forward. But what I would actually say, the thing that was kind of surprising, as I said, basically, this is big spoiler. Like, it's this big karate tournament. They all show up as Miyagi-Do. Cobra Kai gets usurped by John Kreese, who partners with the Koreans that taught him his fighting style. But when things go south, basically the Koreans kind of withdraw, and John Kreese himself says like, I don't want to do this anymore. And for like bullshit tournament reasons, basically Miyagi-Do loses, but Cobra Kai is still in the competition.
Okay.
So it's kind of like basically they all like side join Cobra Kai. It becomes this thing where it's like even Johnny's out there like it brings it back to the beginning, right? Like this is his thing, and here they are now his thing going to win the tournament, right?
Do they win with a crane kick?
No.
Damn.
Although there's a scene about that.
Do they play what? You're the best?
Yes, I believe they do. I do believe they do.
Yes, they do. Of course they do. You have to.
But yeah, so in that regard, like it brings it back around to like the show started and ended with this is still his, and actually it ends with him now like, hey, this is successful again. This is now your dojo. You can now do the thing that you were trying to do in season 1, despite all the other horseshit for Johnny. Which is like it was kind of like, okay, that it is still his story, right?
Yeah.
It ends with him like, hey, and some people help and like, buy the space so he could run the dojo, and he's got the kids there and stuff. So like, yeah, it felt like this was it was still a show about that guy, like in all his friends and family, but it wasn't the Daniel LaRusso show.
That's good. Yeah.
Daniel LaRusso was an important character, and it supported that, but like at the end of the show, it was the Johnny Lawrence show.
That's good. That's really good to hear, actually. At
least that was my perspective.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, I actually it was a fun wrap, and
that's good. I bounced off when I felt like a little bit too much of bullshit was going on, but sticking it through.
Well, definitely soap operas, right? Like soap operas hard, but then like the one thing I think I've realized is, I think we've said it's a sports show, right? It is Friday Night Lights. It is all these other like sports shows,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And guess what? Those are actually just soap operas with a veneer of sport. And this is the same shit. Like it really is. Yeah. It's how do you sell a soap opera to dudes who love sport? Like, well,
Watch
it ends up
wrestling.
Wrap your soap opera with, but we do karate, or we do football. So I do think it is a bit dramatic and over the top at times, but it worked out, right?
Yeah.
And for this, they brought these bullshit characters from these movies,
capital B, that's the crazy thing.
Terry Silver is a capital B bullshit character.
We have literally talked about this probably now. This is probably our fourth time talking about
third
this
or fourth
show.
Time.
This show should not be this good.
I mean, I remember in season 3 or 4, where they suddenly start doing backstory to John Kreese about him joining the military in the 50s and shit, and you're like, really? But that's
the only thing they fucked up with is that I felt like they could have worked in the backstory where during his time in Vietnam he also fought the Predator. They should have worked that in. I think that could have.
There's things they could have done that they could have done. I would say Hilary Swank did not appear. Missed opportunity.
That would have been great. Oh well. Maybe she'll appear in the movie.
I think what was interesting is that the last season really leans into, Mr. Miyagi has a dark history.
Oh no!
He competed in this tournament.
Turns out he's originally from Burbank.
He was part of this big tournament that they're doing now. Someone died, and that becomes this thing. He may have committed a crime.
No, come on. That's still
it ends up working out in a way where it doesn't.
Okay.
You're like, okay, that's what it was. But it definitely it takes a lot of air in the room.
That's okay.
But gotta do the drama.
That's soap opera. Yeah,
it's soap opera.
I'm not gonna blame anybody for it. I'm really glad. So I guess I was gonna say I'm really glad, but I want to.
No, wait. I have to complain.
Sure.
They do. There is CGI bullshit. Pat
Oh
Morita.
no, I heard about this. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, please. Please.
That is the one my complaint, official complaint. Bad. They do CGI Pat Morita to do some karate or some shit. It's like you didn't need this. Like you didn't need this.
That's the question, because I remember that news story coming around. They're going to do some like CGI deep fake AI, basically Pat Morita into this. I am not as what do I want to say? I'm not as hardline as some people are. Basically, my question is the estate okay with it? Assuming they got signature rights to kind of like go like this is okay. But even with that, and I'm speaking specifically to Alien Romulus, which came out last year, that did some similar stuff with Ian Holm. His estate signed off on it, but it was bad. It looked bad.
Well, it's like Star Wars Rogue One.
That wasn't, honestly, as a person that's seen both, that was better than what happened in Romulus. Although what I've heard, I haven't seen it, even though I own it on home video. They spent some time to make the CG AI stuff look better in home video release, but put in the work, put in the effort, put in the money to make it work. But even outside of that, like narratively, it should work. Because what I think and we'll let you. I'm going to let you like sort of obviously give your piece here about it, but like there's an inherent kind of assumption when you do that kind of stuff, which is it's all nostalgia bait.
Yes,
and the narrative, actual like impact or import, I should say, is secondary. So like if you're going to do that shit, make sure it's actually important to the story so that it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. So with that being said, how did the CG / maybe AI Pat Morita, perhaps even approved by his estate, how did that work out in season 6 of Cobra Kai?
I'd say it stood out like a thumb that was sore.
I slammed my thumb on a door the other day.
Because it's basically, Daniel is like having a fucking flashback or a memory or some shit. And it's not a flashback. He like, I forget the context, but it's, he's fighting like fucking phantoms, and then fucking AI Pat Morita shows up.
Hey,
and
as it does,
and it really felt like this didn't need to be there.
It could have had like maybe a sound alike and like off screen over the shoulder
like,
kind of shit.
You could have just had clips from the movies, right, which would have probably fit just as well.
Sure.
Or like just like the thing I want people to just accept. Fucking hire somebody, right? Just find someone that does, like, it's like Shakespeare, man. Did you know that like lots of different people have played Romeo and Juliet?
Did you know that Pat Morita was putting on a voice?
It's not like he was. It's not like we constantly, every time someone does a performance of Romeo and Juliet, that we have to deep fake the fucking people that played it in 1603, right? No. We accept that different actors play parts, right?
Yeah.
Multiple people have played it. Let's look at Star Trek, right? Kirk, Spock. Like, this is okay, right?
So you're saying they should have brought in Chris Pine as
just Chris Pine is Mr. Miyagi.
As Mr. Miyagi.
But like they probably
voiced by Vin Diesel, of course.
They could have found someone just if they wanted to do this scene to do it, right? That's
awkward.
That was the one part I was like, what the fuck is that? And also, again, because it was like this weird, like he's having a vision of fighting people. It's like this is. It felt inserted just so they could do this thing.
That's not good. But
no, it's
if
not.
It's just one scene, like that's fine. I'm not going to condemn them forever. Again, I think you actually brought up a good point with Star Wars Rogue One, right? Like it felt like, let's just do this because of continuity's sake. And well, actually, that's a more valid argument than what they maybe did here in Cobra Kai.
Well, and actually, I don't. If you want to have, like, I would say Rogue One, they should have just found someone to play Moff Tarkin. right?
I bet you could find some stuffy British guy.
I bet
comb
you
his
right.
hair backwards.
I
and
bet you there's a bunch of fucking stuffy British guys out there who would love to play that part. Check.
The audience can make the leap that this is the same guy.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. There's a distrust of the audience, which is sad. And I think seeing that kind of shit happen, I think that's what a lot of like AI stuff comes down to. It's like a distrust of the audience that we can't just make that cognitive leap that is so obvious and sincere that we have to. You need to couch us in cotton and dreams. Like, it's just it's kind of upset. It is kind of upsetting to to be that distrustful.
Here's a good example, right? The voice of Darth Vader in Star Wars. They literally paid James Earl Jones before he died money to get his voice. But also, like, guess what? Other people have been doing that voice in video games and other shit for years. Like,
we love James Earl Jones. His impact is undeniable, and his name will never be forgotten.
Someone else could do it,
There are plenty of people that can do Darth Vader's voice. Like, come on.
So that is the thing that like just seeing that.
I mean, that's an incredible analog. Like, not for nothing, as we were hinting at before, Mr. Miyagi's voice is a cliche.
Right.
Right?
One could argue an offensive cliche.
Honestly, but like, I think Pat Morita was like, I'm channeling my grandfather, which he's like, but basically him saying, I'm channeling a cliche, Japanese American. Like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Like, just, you don't it's strange. It's strange.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I would say, I think the show, did solid work. I would say one thing I'll say, each season's only 10 episodes, I think, ish.
Yeah.
So it's, as far as shows go, it's not that long. And it's a sports show, but, I actually really, by the end of it, I was like, this is good. They wrapped it up. I felt good about it. Like, I do think they had a great cast. I will say the kids.
Yes.
The kids are actually, like, pretty much all of them were pretty solid. I'm not even going to try. Every time I want to say his name.
Don't even. Yeah.
The actor that played Miguel. Because his name is I think Nahuatl. Sholo.
Wow.
That's what I don't know how to say. Sholo. No.
Anyway, that guy's great.
He's the guy that plays the main character. Miguel is great.
Yeah.
Also,
Miguel,
the other kids, I think
Blue Beetle, right?
Blue Beetle. But also some of the other guys are also really. I think they do a good job.
Honestly, the issue
gals.
I had when I bounced off the show, it was never about the cast. Honestly, it wasn't. I mean, I wasn't gonna say it wasn't about the writing, but it kind of was. But like, my tolerance for whatever
for soap opera is low.
Was just low at that point for that kind of soap opera. And like, but I love that cast. I do love the writing. I love the conceit. It was just me. It's not them. It's me. And I'm really glad they were able to bring it to a conclusion that they wanted to bring it to. And not a lot of shows get that opportunity, especially, as you said, weird ideas that spun off of a YouTube premium series. Like, this is ridiculous. And so I hope everybody's really proud of the work they did, as they should be. Because I don't know, without the success of Cobra Kai, they wouldn't even be able to do this Karate Kid Legends movie that's coming out. To be honest. And
which is funny. I remember, I shit you not, when the next Karate Kid came out, which was I don't know, fucking forever ago.
Right, 100 years ago. Yeah.
Pat Morita was on some late show that I happened to see. I don't know whose it was.
No, wait, that was the Hilary Swank. Yeah.
When he was joking that the reason why that they got Hilary Swank is because Ralph Macchio was too old. And it's funny because, like, sure, he was, but also now he's actually too old, but it doesn't show.
But still looks younger than Hilary Swank, which is the crazy part. That guy has made some bad, obviously good, but bad deals with witches or something.
Right? Like, so, yeah. Anyway, good times.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say, apparently, if I read it might be Solo Maraduena is the actor. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that.
The X is confusing and frustrating.
It is. It's very confusing. But he's great. But all the kids, actually, really, some of them are very junior. Like, they're still getting their chops. But
they're all good, though. They're all compelling and interesting, right?
Yeah. I definitely enjoy just, like, seeing these kids do their thing. And kind of, like, part of it was we were not sports people.
Still aren't.
But like there was always just to see, like, oh, I can relate to some of this, like
sure,
the awkwardness of high school and everything else.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's my Week in Geek, Cobra Kai season 6. The show's finally done. We're finally going to stop talking about fucking Karate Kid. So,
are we? We got one more movie coming, so we'll see.
At least. But anyway, maybe Hilary Swank's in that one.
Let's hope.
She's the surprise reveal.
That'd be incredible.
Anyway, Dan, what about your Week in Geek?
I'm going to spend like 5 minutes talking about my shit because it's not nearly as interesting or important as what you talked about. But my Week in Geek is something I've been messing with for the last few weeks. And as the resident Metroid correspondent here, I've been playing a video game called The Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, released last year. And I think it's relevant because I think you, Andrew, as a longtime PC gamer, know that the Prince of Persia franchise is fairly old and storied, especially by this point. And this is a recent attempt to kind of modernize that franchise and honestly do a really good job of it. I think the Prince of Persia, I will say, like, the Prince of Persia franchise has done a pretty good job over the years staying relevant and modern, up to date. Obviously, the original Prince of Persia games were in their own right, like, basically a miracle. Like, it was just an idea this kid had, and he was able to make it happen because he was an uber nerd and had access to the tools that he was able to make it work for him. And I think even Atari released one of their, what do you call it, like documentary video games, either about Prince of Persia or Jordan Mechner himself. I don't know. I should play it. But I remember as a kid watching friends play the original Prince of Persia games on their PCs because I played on my Nintendo. I think they might have released a Prince of Persia game for that. But I remember seeing it at friends' houses and was just really impressed with the fluidity of animation. And just maybe because it was restricted by the technology, but the really lonely, mysterious vibe it created.
Right.
And then I remember the first real successful, for lack of a better word, reboot, the Sands of Time game, which was a 3D action adventure platformer thing. And I eventually played that game. I didn't play it at its release, but I eventually played it and enjoyed it quite a bit. But also felt it was kind of a piece of a lot of other games and what they were doing at the time. And to be fair, maybe it's because I came to it late, and I was viewing it in the context of the games it inspired rather than the sort of monumental entry that it was on its own. But yeah, what's interesting about this game is that it's ostensibly a quote unquote return to roots as a side-scrolling action
platformer.
Yeah, platformer.
Action,
specifically, but it's also an action game, which is different from the roots of the original games, because it's also a Metroidvania. It's like it's a straight up Metroidvania, which is what caught my eye because I love that shit. But I also kind of have a low tolerance for
games,
busy work, games, but busy work specifically, and that's the thing that has impressed me the most about it is it's breaking that trend. Like, go through the archive of the show, and both Andrew and I have both steeped ourselves in the Metroidvania genre. And there are games that do well and games that just make an attempt. And the thing that I was most worried about going into this game, because I heard a lot of praise for it, but I've heard a lot of praise for a lot of different Metroidvania games that I ultimately bounced off of pretty hard. I was most worried about it falling into a lot of the tropes that modern Metroidvanias kind of follow. Because the thing that kind of penetrates the genre more recently is like quote unquote difficulty, Nintendo hard kind of stuff. Like I think Hollow Knight does this and Dead Cells does this. Great games.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Right. Great games in their own right. But the kind of motto is like, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to play. And to me, it's not super fun, especially when it's a game that's ostensibly built on exploration.
Well, and arguably that's to a certain extent what Metroid did.
I think you're casting aspersions. I don't think it's we can lay the blame at Metroid. We can't lay the blame at Symphony of the Night. We can lay the blame at Dark Souls and because Dark Souls ultimately Dark Souls and Bloodborne, they took the Metroidvania model and made it hard.
Well, what I'd say is that I would argue, as someone who tried to play the Metroids, they were hard.
Yeah.
And the thing that we call Metroidvania comes to a certain extent more from Castlevania, which added game mechanics that made it so even if it was hard, you could get around it just by grinding, essentially, like by leveling up, right? Where Metroid, you didn't level shit.
You didn't level shit.
And if you couldn't beat that boss, eat shit.
Well,
I say that as someone who could not finish multiple Metroid games because I could not beat certain bosses.
That being said, we're not here to talk about Metroid. We're here to talk about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. And what I like about it is that I feel a lot of indie Metroidvanias have leaned into that post-Dark Souls mode, and I would say this is true of Hollow Knight and Dead Cells, which I loved playing, but I bounced off of pretty hard because they seem to ultimately just be asking, are you good enough? Right? And I'm like,
no, I'm not.
Yeah, I thought I was because I like these kinds of games, but you're also like abusing me emotionally to play this game. I think modern sensibilities of Metroidvanias have exploration, the stuff you expect, like exploration, acquiring skills to enter new areas, inventory, and leveling. And then there's also that, I think another staple that's been added to that has been that difficulty gate. And I will say that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown doesn't do that. It doesn't fall into that trap. It's really a game about exploration, and I've really enjoyed exploring this space. It also is about the action, and the action's really engaging and quick and complicated without being overly so, I would say. But anytime I've opened up a new part of the map, I'm really excited to go bounce around in there because the penalty for just trying something new and failing is fairly light.
That's good.
Yeah, to the point where I'm comfortable pushing the boundaries a bit without worrying about have I saved recently or how's my health, because it's more like I'll just go check it out, while also feeling that I'm learning something, gaining something, and contributing to the story for what it is. Right. The last point I'll make is that what I like about it is that it's not just a gauntlet of battles where I open a new area and it's just this endless string of enemies I have to combo my way through, right? There were times when I've opened up a new area and there's no enemies at all. And instead it's a puzzle room. The question is, do you have, well, I guess one, can you figure out what's going on to complete the puzzle? And two, do you have all the necessary skills or abilities to complete that puzzle? And if not, that clearly tells you that there's something missing and you need to go explore elsewhere to see what's there before you can come back here. It's a really rewarding experience to that end. I mean, and there's a story, and it's fine. It's betrayal, and it's epic, and it's mythological, and it's fine. It's fine. It's Prince of Persia. We don't come here for the story. But the mechanics are tight. The abilities you gain are substantial. Like anytime I gain a new ability, I really gain a sense of realization of how to overcome those obstacles I was butting up against before. And I feel confident to attack the places I haven't been yet. And it's just such a great game of exploration specifically that I don't really worry about straying from the critical path, because they do a good job of letting you know, or of letting you get so far and then telegraphing that, no, you need to try again later. And they make it pretty clear, like, hey, you'll know what ability you need to get through here. They also let you kind of like take snapshots of areas that you can literally bring up on the map and look at the screenshot. It's kind of cool. So I haven't finished it yet, but I've been so pleased with the experience so far that I'm actually upset about what's happened in the wake of the game's release. I guess it didn't do as well as Ubisoft wanted, and so since the release last year, they've disbanded the team, and its members have been shuffled off to other parts of the company, I'm guessing, I'm hoping. And any planned sequels are now shelved.
Which is too bad. Too bad,
but,
right?
Just big props to the team that made this game. They made a wonderful and iterative and unique game to have its own signature, to be a reverent entry in the Metroidvania genre that doesn't just do what has been done before. So I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep playing the game once I'm done grading. God, so many papers are coming in.
No, I get it. Hey, I hear you.
It's great, and I can't wait to get back to it. I also have a lot of drawing to do. But it's the game that's at the top of my mind right now, and I can't wait to get back into it to solve those mysteries and solve those puzzles. I mean, and I think that's the big thing for me. It's a puzzle-focused game. Even though a lot of the abilities are combat-focused, a lot of the combat are puzzles in their own right, in addition to the puzzle-ass puzzles that are there. And because of that, it feels so much more mature in that respect. It's not just like, can you get enough hits in to beat this boss? It's more like, are you able to use the tools you have to get through this in an effective and succinct manner?
No, I get that. And this is actually like a bigger conversation we'll have another time about what is Metroidvania, because
you should play this game.
Well, I mean, I just
you probably already own it, honestly.
No, I don't.
Somewhere
I don't. I checked. No, it's it's that gray space of that kind of, again, what I'd say what Metroid did originally, which was you have to be good at this to beat these bosses. Contrast with what Castlevania Symphony of the Night did in its progeny, which was, you can be good at it, but also there's also the grind. Like, if you're not good at it, grind a little, and then you'll be fine, right?
For sure. And I think what we're seeing a lot of Metroidvanias now is like, the choice for a lot of these games has been like, which of those elements are they going to be emphasizing and maybe downplaying? And, I at this point, I'm more interested in seeing people just mess with the formula a bit more, Anyway, so Metroidvanias are good. Cobra Kai is good. That's the important thing. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topic we discussed this week, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page for this episode at forallintents.net.
You can also post your comments or engage in conversations with other listeners on our Facebook page.
You can also find us on the social media sites that Andrew and I frequent, which means you can find me on Instagram at Bethel Comics, and you can find Andrew on Mastodon at ProfoundDark at Dice.camp.
While you're at our website at forallintents.net, you can also take a look at our YouTube page, which you can find by clicking on the link in the corner that says YouTube. There you'll find the show simulcast in YouTube. If you do listen to the show on YouTube, please like and subscribe, and as the kids like to say, ring that bell.
We use 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusae, the other is called District 4. They're both written and performed by Kevin McLeod of the Clan McLeod, immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire. You can find his music and more at incompetech.filmmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 Attribution License. If you like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more, though, would be to leave some sort of review, whether a text review or using the proprietary proprietary metric will help spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms.
All right, there we go. That's a show.
We did it. Simple, short, quick, easy.
Some of those words are true.
Indeed. Andrew. Oh, shit. I got one thing I got to say.
What?
I was abducted.
Oh my God, this is the most Sims thing you're going to talk about.
Yep. I was not abducted,
are you
actually.
now pregnant?
Yes, I am pregnant.
With an alien baby?
I'm pregnant with opinions.
Again, The Sims, that happens.
We have an on-the-ground Marvel correspondent, one Kyron Silva.
Yeah.
He forced me, against my will, not at all, actually. What I'm trying to say is that Kyron and I went and saw Captain America Brave New World.
Oh!
And guess my three-word review, Andrew.
Wait, 3-word. It's not bad.
It was good.
Oh, it was good. Okay.
Actually,
I just like the reviews. It's okay.
I have some opinions. I think it was good. Okay. We can count out the words later. It was overwritten, but the performances and story was good.
That's a lot more words than 3.
It's about 10 to 12. I think, again, I think the story, I don't know, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I don't know if they trusted the audience enough. And everything was kind of just overwritten. One scene they're like, you said what? And then the next scene they're like, did you know he said this? I'm like, yes, yeah, I just saw that shit. I'm like, yeah, they did. But like the actual story and how it like kind of came together, I thought was good. They needed a third or fourth draft. Like it was fine. They needed to trust the story a bit more. But that being said, it is a good Captain America movie. Like, man, Sam Wilson is great as a Captain America. Anthony Mackie
yeah, I think actually that's I think he actually it carries it well. Like he's doing the thing that he should be doing.
There's a scene in this film that is not maybe the scene that you think, that I think encapsulates everything. It's when, spoiler alert, so Andrew, take off your headphones, I guess. It's when Bucky shows up, and like there's that scene where they actually are, because honestly, like that's the romance, right? It's Sam Wilson and Bucky. When they actually get into a room together and start making out, not literally.
But no, like
that's where the movie comes together. I'm like, oh, this is like so focused and clear, and like it speaks to all the not controversy, but all like the, let's be honest, like the progressive ideas, and like it just all comes together and it coalesces in such a beautiful, perfect, and idealistic way that is appropriate for Captain America.
Right. What I would say is that I think that is I would reference the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show.
Yes, great show.
In fact, that was well, I don't know if the show was great. It was solid.
I think it's pretty good.
But I think like where its strength was the relationship with those two. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
That is I think we joked about I think with Kyron, like the idea that like by the end of that show, like that Bucky's invited to the cookout, right. And it felt like those two really just clicked.
Yeah.
So I'm glad actually
they did personally. Like they're like besties.
Right. And I will say I not knowing that he was going to be in it, I'm glad to hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fuck.
No, it's fine. I don't like. Good
I
to
won't
know.
spoil anything else that like. So like, there's like another level in that scene that I don't know if you're prepared for.
But yeah,
we can talk about off the mic. Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm glad to hear that, because I think that those two, they sell. Because I mean, really, I haven't seen the movie, but like I saw the show.
You should.
The idea of,
and you will.
Yeah, I will once it's on. In like
Disney
30
Plus.
days. Yeah.
Right. Because honestly, it is like a sequel. I think you're right. Not to cut you off. It is a sequel ostensibly to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, obviously because Sam Wilson's Captain America. But and the reviews are correct in this. It's also a sequel to
The Eternals.
No, well that too, but like Ed Norton's Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
No, I think
like
just the idea of I think those two are important because the character of Captain America, like people are like, oh, it should have gone to Bucky, it should have gone to Sam, whatever. Like it's both. Like to a certain extent, they both carry some of this legacy, if you will. So the idea that like I'm glad to hear he's in it. In whatever capacity, I'll find out.
It also shouldn't be surprising, I think.
I mean, that's why I'm not upset. Like I was honestly, had he said he wasn't in it, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Honestly, I think you might be upset with how little he's in it.
Oh no, I mean, sure, it's well, because he's off doing fucking Thunderbolts. I get that.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like his appearance in this movie really makes me wonder, like, what the fuck is going on with Thunderbolts? It does, and it might just be like some people. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, we'll see. But I just, to me, like you said, they are. It's that the aspects of the role of what is Captain America and how they both embody certain aspects of it, but also the challenges of it. And I mean, good to know.
It's fun times, and it's a more sober and perhaps like mature movie than we might expect. Thunderbolts though looks fucking fantastic. I'm very excited for that movie. So until you are excited for a movie that you want to see, sure, that's a positive note. I'm D. Bethel,
and I'm Andrew Asplund,
and for all intents and purposes,
that was a podcast. It's not a big deal. It's like
a little deal.
It's a little deal. It's like my throat swells a little bit.
That might be called an allergy, my friend.
Right.
Let's do like let's do a strong 15 minutes.
We'll see. Okay, so
Glenn is excited. I can tell that. He's wooing all over the place in the background. I'm not complaining. Do not stop him.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. That's part of the charm of the show.
It's too bad you can hear so much of them playing magic. While you're at our website at forallintents.net, you can also...
Nyet, you Russian spy, you fucking... So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed this week... Let me try that one more time. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed... Let me try that one more time. A lot of consonants. Just tired. Right, Glenn?
Other people are laughing at you.